Good evening, Drew.
Paul Baylor?
That's me.
That's Paul me. Baylor? From the Doing Their Best?
From the breakout character from the hit podcast.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. All right. Hey, I got to send you something.
Okay.
And it's gonna tee us up perfectly. I'm gonna send this to you via internet message, also known as iMessage.
Okay.
Let's see, Paul Baylor. There you go. All right. Where do you want to start?
Hold on. It's still in the two.
Where do you want to start, buddy? Oh. I'm ready.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Let's dive into this. I'm sorry. I'm looking. Is
that is this a show art? Is this a show?
It's gonna be.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
If your podcast player supports chapter art, look at your phone right now, because it's gonna get weird. Okay.
All right.
So, a new video game came out, Drew.
Yeah, it did.
And I've seen a lot of people on the Twitters talking about this one quite a bit. We're talking about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020.
Yes. Okay. So we were going to get to this last time, but I'm glad we waited because I just sort of completed the cycle today, and I'll get to what that means here in a minute. But Flight Simulator, if you've been around computers in the past, I don't know, 20 years. I think 1983, longer than that then. So 27 years then.
Yeah.
Wait, 27. I can't do math. If you've been around computers for a while, you know that Flight Simulator is a game that has a pretty storied heritage in the IBM PC world. It was pretty remarkable in its day, and there have been a few iterations of it since, but this recently launched. It's the new Flight Simulator, and it is breathtaking in scope and in visual effects, and it is an absolute joy to look at, to play. It scratches a lot of my itches. First of all, before you take off, you can start the plane up, and you get a checklist. And boy, howdy, do I love me some checklists! And you can flip almost every button in the cockpit and fiddle with all the knobs, and you can plan your route. And there's air traffic control that you can communicate with, and it's a pretty remarkable thing. But in terms of tech, okay. What's really interesting about Flight Simulator, and if you've been keeping up with the news about this, it's probably not any surprise to you, but the really interesting thing here is they've sort of leveraged the power of Bing Maps and an artificial intelligence cloud-based compute platform to essentially render the entire world in a relatively accurate fashion. And I'll talk about why it's relatively accurate here in a minute. But the idea is that if I were to take off from Ohio State Airport, Don Scott, which is not far from where I live, and actually planes from that airport fly over my house, but I could take off from that airport, and all of the surrounding buildings, on Sawmill Road and the areas around it, will be rendered in 3D. It won't just be like a two-dimensional slap of Earth that someone just took a picture of. The AI component of this is able to look at the satellite imagery and essentially derive how tall buildings should be, what color they should be. They will attempt to apply a texture to them. Now, is it 100% accurate? No. But in terms of it being able to identify roads and put vehicles on them, and in terms of it being able to render a neighborhood, like I flew over my house and it renders my house and my neighborhood. It's pretty darn remarkable. Some cities look better than others because in addition to the AI aspect of it, there's also this they call it a handcrafted part of the game. So certain airports, certain cities appear way more detailed than others. And, surprise, surprise, Columbus, I don't think is one of those cities.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, put it this way. You can fly over Ohio State and recognize that it's Ohio State. You can fly over downtown Columbus and recognize buildings like Nationwide and stuff like that. It's pretty good. The Columbus airport is fully modeled, like, John Glenn International. It's completely modeled, and I kind of flew over that too. And then, one of the first things I did when I booted up the game is I took off from Ohio State's airport and I attempted to visually navigate to my parents' house, one of my parents' houses, in southwestern Pennsylvania by following Interstate 70. And yeah, you could do that. Like I followed Interstate 70 just visually. I was supposed to be several thousand feet in the air. I was not. I was about 1,000 feet off the ground for most of the flight, just because I wanted to be able to see and try to recognize, like, when I got near Zanesville, I sort of recognized some of the landmarks, and it's just a really cool game. Now, the picture I sent you is showing you my investment in this game.
Okay, so I have one question before you get into this, okay?
All right.
And so my father's always been into flight simulators. I don't think he's quite got into this one yet, but he probably will. He's played quite a few, and I've tried them. I personally don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it, Drew. So can you explain to me what makes this a fun use of your entertainment time?
Okay, that's a fair question, right? Because here's the thing. It's exceptional. So it's okay. How do I approach this? Because I'm sure there are other listeners. The 5 of our 6 other listeners are probably in the same bucket. But so the interesting thing for me is this: when you boot up the game, okay, you have a couple different ways you can play this game. The first is, and the most popular is, kind of what we call free flight mode, and you literally pick a spot on the globe that you want to start at. And that can be at an airport, or it could be, right next to a mountain. Like you can literally type in GPS coordinates, and the game will plop you at that place. And you can set your initial altitude and what plane you're in. And it comes with a lot of different planes you can fly, and each one handles differently. And there's propeller things, and there's jets, and there's all of that, right? But you can also start at an airport, and you can either just have it like skip all the foreplay and you start right on the runway with your engine going, or if you're like me, you could start in the cockpit, parked in a parking spot, or parked at a gate, and you have to go through an entire startup procedure, which, listen, I play a lot of train simulators, so take this with a grain of salt. But the act of actually physically starting up an aircraft and following the checklist, it's really fun. It's just really neat because the fidelity of the simulator is so high that if you hop into the Airbus in this or the Dreamliner, the 787 Dreamliner, like not only are all of the digital dash components like literally just like iPads glued inside of an airplane is the best way I could describe it, but not only are all of those fully rendered, but all of the switches on them are fully rendered. Like you can, like you're literally looking at your computer screen, looking at another computer screen, and you can flip between the pages and the different modes of said screen within a screen to look at artificial horizon or weather or whatever. And not only that, but you can like change your camera position and look at the center console where like your flight navigation info is, and you can flip all those little switches and buttons. And it's pretty cool. If you're feeling especially saucy, you could just turn off your engines while you're flying. That's pretty cool too, and like try to recover. So there's this incredibly detailed flight model, but there's also this incredibly detailed. All these aircraft are so richly detailed, and the fact that they all handle so differently, even in clear skies with no weather, no wind, like me flying a Cessna is way different than me flying a Gulfstream or one of the Learjets or something. It's just really cool to experience. And then, once you get on the runway and you throttle up and you take off and you get your gear up, you get your flaps up, and you're sort of in the air and you hit the autopilot, like, it's just kind of cool to look around, right? And, at that point, once the autopilot's engaged or you hand over control to your co-pilot, we'll talk about co-pilots in a minute, you can just sort of sit back and take in the scenery. You can flip between the different camera angles and see what's going on. The simulator can also throw you a few curveballs.
Okay.
So the default mode is it relies on real-time weather. So like if I were to boot up the game right now, I could use live weather and live ATC and live day time of day. So like if I were to be on the tarmac at Port Columbus, there would be probably other jets landing, and it would be dark out because it's nighttime, and it was a little cloudy today. I think it's supposed to rain tonight, so it's probably cloudy out right now. And like all of that is gathered in real time and presented to you. So, and if you don't want to do that, you can adjust the weather, the time of day, the amount of air traffic that you want. So you could custom kind of tailor it to however you're feeling. If you just want a nice little solo experience where you get up in the sky on a clear day and tool around, like, great. If you want the bigger challenge of trying to fly into a pattern outside of an airport and wait your turn to land, like, that's part of it too. Like, that's fully rendered. And that's something that, wasn't in the original Flight Simulator. And I think it might have been in Flight Simulator 10 or X or however you're supposed to say that. But yeah, it's just the attention to detail is, I think, what helps me get it up for this game, because it's just so incredibly rich. Now, in addition to that whole free flight mode, there's also an entire training suite where you have an instructor that is in the plane with you and walking you through the different controls and teaching you the basics of flight. Like, so you don't have to have your hand on the yoke the entire time. Like, you can they teach you how to trim the aircraft, how to take off properly, how to steer on the ground, like all the things that, like, as civilians or people who are afraid of flying to begin with, you're not really sure how all that stuff works. Well, it helps to kind of learn how that works. And, you can go through all the training exercises. And then there's also a series of challenges that have, like, global leaderboards, like who can stop on the shortest runway the best, or who can land in this thunderstorm, right? So, the game will throw challenges at you where, like, there'll be a thunderstorm or like a cloud burst over a runway. You're coming in hot and you have to see if you can hack it, right? So there's some weekly challenges that are in the game that are pretty interesting. I haven't tackled any of them yet, but it's a really good game. It's a really kind of chill game. Like, I will fire it up every couple days. I'll play it for a few hours. And, like, there's time compression and stuff like that. So if I want to, like, do a transatlantic flight, I could take off in New York and hit a couple keys and, like, oh, hey, I'm in the Netherlands now. Like, it's okay, time to land. Like, yeah. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. I didn't realize that your dad was a big, simmer, as we're known.
Yeah, he used to even get back, like, he used to dabble with remote control airplanes and helicopters, and, like, this was back, like, in the mid-'90s and stuff, and he would actually get the simulation software for those where you could hook up, his radio to the computer and do sims of that kind of stuff. Because, like, fun fact about, RC planes and helicopters is that they're really expensive. And if you crash, you're going to be out probably at least a few $100s, if not more. So,
sure.
Yeah, so he would run simulations and do different stuff and practice a different weather and things like that. So he'd get good at flying the real thing. So there's obviously another aspect to this game.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the part that I can understand, because this is something that I always enjoy about a new hobby. The gear, the tech.
Oh, okay. So let's get into that.
Uh-huh.
So here's the thing about Flight Simulator. When Flight Simulator first came out on the PC in 1983 or whatever, you controlled it with a keyboard. Like, it had a mouse component. Maybe if you were lucky and you could, like, afford a mouse back then, but everything was keystrokes. Everything was controlled by the keyboard. So you would take off and you had to use, like, your arrow keys to steer, and there were basically hot keystrokes for everything. Well, nowadays, obviously, there's a lot of different ways to play video games. And the interesting thing about Flight Simulator is that, you can bring whatever type of controls to this game that you want. If you want to do keyboard and mouse, like, it's got you. If you want to bring an Xbox gamepad, totally fine. If you want to bring like a flight stick and a HOTAS controller, or hands-on throttle and stick, it's got you. Or if you really want to experience it the way that it is meant to be experienced, you can get a flight yoke system and some throttles and some rudder pedals. And just like everything else, however much you want to spend on this hobby, you can spend on this hobby. So I figured if I was really going to play this game, and look, I'm not trying to justify how I spend my money to our 6 listeners. I'm not here to do that. I don't want to do that. But if by now you probably have seen the show art and you are looking at a picture of my desk with a yoke, you can also see the throttle quadrant to the left, and I have rudder pedals underneath my desk. So Daddy spent some money, okay? And by the way, Flight Simulator will run you at least $60. So the keyword there is at least $60 because there are different versions of the game. There's the base game for the poors, and there's the upgraded versions that have additional aircraft and additional aircraft liveries and additional handcrafted airports. And then there's the Ultimate Edition, which is a cool $110, which has everything. So I bought that one. And then I bought... Yeah, and then like the first piece of gear that I bought was the Logitech Flight Simulator yoke system. And the Flight Simulator yoke system, again, this is all in show notes, has a yoke with a bunch of buttons on it, and then a throttle quadrant for controlling the throttle and the mixture of your fuel and all kinds of stuff that I don't really understand yet. But it's levers and knobs, and who doesn't want to? Yeah. Who doesn't want to play with my knob, right?
And there's some switches, it looks like, at the bottom.
Oh, there's some switches on there. Yeah. So, it's pretty remarkable. So I bought that, and I wasn't able to get a set of rudder pedals at the same time. So when I first played the game, I was using the yoke to sort of steer the plane, like roll it in the air and pitch it up and down, and then control the throttles and everything, but I didn't have a way to control the rudder. Now, the rudder on the airplane, welcome to the airplane podcast, but the rudder on the airplane is the thing that yaws you left to right in the air. So there's pitch, roll, and yaw, right? So pitch is the nose of the airplane going up and down. Roll is tilting the wings left and right, and then yaw is the rudder on the back of the plane, which basically, like, if you take the palm of your hand and hold it out in front of you, point your fingers to the left or point your fingers to the right while keeping your palm level, that's yaw. And that's what the rudder does. And when you're making turns, it helps you keep your turn under control. It helps you, like, point the aircraft in another direction without having to touch the yoke. But more importantly,
it helps with comfort for the passengers as well, because you don't put quite so many G's.
No, these are not high G maneuvers.
Yeah.
But the other thing here is that when you're on the ground, the rudder is what steers you.
And yes, it is. Yep.
So whenever, like, I'm trying to, like, start my airplane up, it was really awkward because I was trying to use the little arrow keys on my 10 keyless keyboard to act as my rudder while also, like, flipping my switches and my knobs to, like, get off the ground. So it was just really awkward. And, Microsoft Flight Simulator and the whole simulation hobby in general has obviously a cult following. So when this game got closer to release, this gear was exceptionally hard to find. Like, the price gougers were out in full force, and I wasn't going to pay $400 for a $100 set of pedals or $500 for this yoke system, right? So Micro Center by us had the yoke system, and I've sort of been sharking their website over the past week, I guess, since the game came out, looking to see if they got some rudder pedals. And this morning I logged onto their website, and they had 10 sets of the Thrustmaster, T-Flight rudder pedals, which were not my first choice of the ones I would like to get. But I just wanted a set of rudder pedals.
Right.
They had 10 of them in stock this morning. I reserved one. I went after work today, and they were completely sold out. So I know I'm not alone in this hobby, and people that want to play this game the quote unquote right way. So yeah. So I got the pedals. I got the yoke. I got the switches. I got the throttle. Like I'm like all in here, right? But I will say that I'm probably not done.
Okay, good. I have questions. Yeah, good, because I have questions.
Okay. Hold on. Don't even at me. I'm also looking at this little guy.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm also thinking about buying this, which is the Flight Switch Panel Professional Simulation Switch Controller.
Okay. Yeah.
Which has a switch for. You read that correctly. Pilot heat. So, like, it doesn't control by furnace. I don't know why that's a thing, but but it's got a landing gear up and down switch. It's got a couple other. It's got like a starter. It's got like some other things that if I really wanted to be super nerdy about this, I could get into. There's also, look at these little things. If you want to roll your own. Air traffic control, like frequency things, like you got little radio simulator things you can put in there.
Okay. This is one of the things I had a question about. Okay. So
right.
I get switches, right? I love a good switch, right? And the fact that you fire you're getting your airplane all all ready to go. You're flipping those switches. You're turning on the fuel pump. Like, I get that. That's cool. Cool. The landing gear thing. I mean, honestly, if you're really into this, probably the landing gear control is probably worth the money alone. Okay, so I understand the enjoyment of that. So I'm following along on the Logitech website, and so I'm looking at the Flight Radio Panel Professional Simulation Radio Controller. And it looks like a CB radio. Mm-hmm. What is the point of this in the game? Well, the simulation, we'll say simulation.
Okay. So here's what I know.
Okay.
When you are on the ground, you have to tune your radio to a certain frequency for the controllers on the ground that are responsible for making sure your airplane doesn't run into other airplanes as you approach the runway. There's also, and then when you get to the runway, you switch to you have to make sure you tune into the tower so they can give you clearance for takeoff. Then once you get in the air, you have to switch to the departure frequency so they can talk to you as you're leaving their airspace. Then when you get to a new airspace, you have to tune into their frequency to make sure you get their updates. So there's a lot of fiddling with radio knobs.
Okay, and if you want to fiddle with radio knobs inside the simulation, this is the device
you have to reach you have to reach for the mouse like an animal, but with this I could just bend over and I could pre-program these frequencies because they're known,
of course,
or I could flip them around. The other nice thing about this particular panel is that it also gives you the ability to control your flaps from it. It also gives you the ability to control your pitch. Now, to be fair, I have the ability to do both of that already with my current flight stick, but It sure would be nice if I had a labeled switch.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Now the next thing I want to draw your attention to is the last link I put in here. Now this is where the hobby takes a hard steer into Nope Town for me. Okay.
This. Okay. So many questions.
Okay. All right. So what you're looking at here is essentially a little LCD monitor that can be programmed to display different things. And this little thing is called the Professional Simulation LCD Multi-Instrument Controller. And what this is a little box that has an LCD in it that can display different things. It can display a horizon, it can display your heading, it can display your throttle, it could display your airspeed. It could display a bunch of different things, but to really get the full effect of what we're going for here, if you scroll down about halfway down the page, you see where this is going?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you could stack, 12 of these things together at $170 a pop.
$170 a pop.
Right. Yeah.
And how big are these things?
Oh, I don't know.
Like 1.5 inches, like a 1.5 inch cube, maybe 2 inches.
Maybe bigger than that,
Okay.
because these also have little buttons and switches on them. So to put it in perspective, right? So I'm gonna just do some like real time like follow up here. But if you look at the picture of where they have like the fake like cockpit with these things in it, there's the yoke at the bottom of the screen there, right? Or the bottom of the picture,
Right.
So it looks like 3 of those things go across the yoke. Well, that's probably a good 7 or 8 inches. So those are probably 2.5 easy square. So they're a pretty decent size. Because that yoke is not small. First of all, it's bigger than my keyboard.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that in the picture. Yes, yeah.
Now, am I going to go that far? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You say
but
that.
I say that now. Well, we'll see. I mean, like all of my other hobbies, I'm sure a month from now I won't be playing this as much, and I'll look back on this and I'm like, yeah, I now have $300 worth of plastic crap that I have to like put somewhere in my house that already has too much shit in it, right?
Or sell
like,
to somebody,
right. But for now, it's really fun. It's pretty fun to get up in the air and fly these different airplanes and land them in different places. I don't know. It just scratches an interesting itch, and the itch might be my wallet, but it scratches an interesting itch.
And there's more stuff you could buy too, right? Like this is not like
Oh yeah. No, listen, you like all good hobbies, you could spend as much as you want to here. As much as you want to here.
Yes.
And this is just one brand. And this is like this is consumer brand, Paul. If you want listen,
you peasant.
Exactly. Like for as proud as I am as my setup, I got news for you, bud. If I were to post a picture of this little paltry setup on some flight sim subreddits, you're going to get laughed right out of there, bud. Because, Flight Sim Joe on, Reddit probably has like a custom built cockpit for all his gear, and he's probably got a flight yoke that came from an actual Cessna that he like wired up himself, right? So listen, I'm like bottom tier of what this hobby is, right? I have the bare minimum to be allowed. Like, if I were to say I was playing Flight Simulator without this gear, I would be questioned. But the fact that I at least made some effort, I would be accepted into the community. But I'm nowhere near the top of the food chain in terms of what people are doing with this. I'm very much in bottom tier.
So it's like $400 to $500 for like table stakes just to be able to show up and appreciate it. At a minimum.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't show up to Cars and Coffee in a Honda Civic, right? Like you have to show up to Cars and Coffee in a nice sports car. Like you can't. You're only embarrassing yourself if you don't do this the right way.
God. Now I would have to imagine that like if the people that really get deep down into this, they're probably building their own controllers. I have to imagine that there's a 3D printer involved to design things that look like the airplanes are trying to simulate, or like I imagine this rabbit hole goes all the way down.
I'm trying to. Oh, here you go. All right. Here we go. Okay. You asked for it.
I did.
You asked for it, buddy. You asked for it. So okay, gonna drop one more link in the show notes for this topic, and then I promise we'll talk about something way more interesting. But go ahead and go here.
Okay. So I'm going to. Okay. Ooh.
Now
Fly
this
PC FC. Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
This
could be in your house.
This is where this is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? Like this is okay. All right. So this
oh my God,
this is
it's shaking.
Yeah.
It's a pod.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Okay, you tell me about this.
I don't know what I could tell you. I don't know what. I mean, so if you go on shop, so there's a shop link at the top. Just click on seats. Go ahead, click on seats.
Seats. Hold on. I clicked on. Oh, I mean, they only offer one. So I mean the option. I mean, how can they not have more than one seat?
Yeah. Better yet. So
the seat is $1,600.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. So you saw what I had on my desk, right? Where I had my yoke and my throttles. You saw that, right?
Yes.
So under the shop link, go ahead and click on PFC flight consoles.
Okay. Oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's there's commas in these numbers.
So my system cost $170. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
The Cirrus 2 flight control, which for all intent and purpose, I think looks like the interior layout of a Cirrus actual aircraft, is $4,000.
Yes, and that's the cheaper option.
And that's the cheapest option. Well, it's not the cheapest option on the page.
Yeah. The cheapest option is just for like the throttle, right? It doesn't even have the yoke.
Yeah. And by the way, you just want a yoke. Well, we got yokes, buddy. You want a yoke from a 737? Good news. Like you can get one.
Yeah. Wow.
Throttle quadrants with reversers, like buddy. Yeah.
Wow.
There's simulation computers, right? So you could actually buy a computer custom built for this. There's an entire section for avionics, right? So the thing we were looking at with like the radio and all that stuff, like,
jeez.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Fixed wing simulators. So you can buy a whole simulator. Oh, okay. So desktop systems. So let's click on desktop systems. Okay. So there's the Category 3 Pro Panel BATD. They don't have a price, which means if you have to ask, you can't afford it, right? Like that's the general.
It's like enterprise software.
Yeah. So exactly. So folks, if you're listening and you want to see what we're on about, please go to the show notes, like for once in your life, and go look at this link, and like you'll see what we're on about here. Because
you can lease things. They have a leasing calculator. That's a good sign.
Okay. Let's see here. Simulator prices, including soft costs.
Yeah. Okay. So just so you know, when you go to the leasing calculator, now I granted this is probably for like simulating airplanes and training pilots. Okay, but there's a slider where you can set the price. They default it to $150,000. Just saying, this is the average that like this is normal. And
to be clear, it's higher than my mortgage payment.
It's a lot. Holy crap.
Oh, and by the way, hours per month equipment operation doesn't change your price, just shows you like, hey, more value for money the more time you spend in this thing. Oh, wait a second though. Look at that last slider. Hourly rate you will charge.
Yeah, so you can.
So basically you buy this and lease it to other people or let other people play on it.
You have it in your you have a training simulator place, a business. Yeah. So this is not for us.
This is not for us, no.
But this is where this goes. Wow.
Yep.
Like I would just say, if you have don't do it while you're driving. Just don't do it. Just go to flypfc.com and just watch that video. Like the first thing you hit is like this big animated video showing the software and all the systems. Just watch that for a bit. Looks like they have stuff for setting up for training for helicopters. Like, wow. It's fun getting these little glimpses into other people's obsessions.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. No, this is somebody's kink, right? And I'm here for it. Like this is a thing. So anyway, that's my big news for the week. And I will probably stream it at some point once I get just a little bit better. Where I do a flight and, chat with people as I'm flying. I think that would be pretty fun, actually.
Now, I have to imagine that, the camera angle that you're going to want for you has got to be different than that face on, right? Would you adjust the camera angle to, show your yoke and your throttle so you can see what people are doing? Would you switch between multiple camera angles? How deep does this rabbit hole go? How deep?
Excellent question.
Okay.
Excellent question. So, one really nice feature of the game is you can very quickly change your view to suit different needs. So, like if I like a takeoff, right? The default view is you're in the cockpit, you can see the dash, you can see over the dash, and yet you can still see like the controls that are really relevant, like, you know, your RPMs of your engine and your throttle. Granted, every airplane's different, but like all of the stuff you need front and center is right there. Now, using the mouse, you can pan around and look however you want. There's also shortcut keys on your keyboard or on like your flight yoke to like quickly raise your view up, so like you don't see as many gauges, but you see higher over the dash, or being able to quickly look left and right to see, you know, what's out your windows. Or, you know, you can also not look outside the airplane at all. So like I could hit a button on my yoke and immediately just be looking at my instrument panels, right? And like zoom into them a little bit. So there's all of these like kind of pre-positioned camera angles inside the plane depending on what you're doing. So like if you're starting up and you want to be able to see your gauges and everything, great. If you're flying and, you know, you're sort of in cruise flight where, you know, you want to glance at your gauges occasionally, like there's a view for that. If you're in the middle of a takeoff or a landing and you need to see all your gauges and some of the horizon, like there's a view for that. So it's really nice that those are all sort of predefined. So even if you like move your mouse, you can like quickly snap back to it, that type of stuff.
Okay.
And then there's like the cinematic views too. So where like, you know, once I get off the ground, then I'm at cruising altitude and I'm on autopilot. Like I could, you know, go exterior camera and like look around my airplane and look at the scenery. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's my big news. That's
Okay.
my big news.
Wow.
So enough about me. Let's hear your big news for the week.
I mean, it's not huge news. I mean, we've been spent some time talking about like Batman comics, just the awfulness that is the Dark Knight's death metal series. I can't even get through. But there's a new series. The first issue came out like this week, I think, or last week. And I am cautiously optimistic. It looks really, really good. So it is Batman 3 Jokers. The first issue is out. I should probably drop a Comixology link in the notes as well for those of us who like digital comics. It is part of the DC Black Label, so you know, it isn't exactly quote unquote canon, but it is intended to be a self-contained story, and DC Black Label is for mature audiences. So, you know, we're looking at a hard PG-13 or R rating. And I don't want to give too many spoilers away from what you can read in the previews and some of the articles, but basically the gist is there's a, you know, Batman gets back from a hard day of crime fighting, and then all these reports, in fact, 3 different reports of the Joker performing crimes across Gotham City happen all at the same time. So then so Batman enlists Red Hood and Batgirl to help him out to figure out what is going on with these 3 Jokers. See the title right there. And it's really good. It's at least in the first issue, you don't have to have a lot of like deep Batman knowledge. There are some things that if you understand, like, you know, the Killing Joke storyline or like Death in the Family, you'll understand a little bit better, but it does a good job of like filling in those gaps for you to understand like what the Joker's history with these characters. The artwork is phenomenal, just absolutely phenomenal. And it's a chunky comic book. The list price is like $7 and it's 54 pages, which is about double the normal like monthly comic book length, so it's meaty. I'm hoping that as I read more of these books and you know, get into the story, that when people like, you know, you, Drew, say like, I don't even know where to begin with comic books, I could say, oh, hey, read Batman 3 Jokers. It's a nice modern story, and you don't have to, you know a lot of all the, you know, you don't have to know Batman trivia to enjoy it. So,
right.
Yeah.
Batman's not a car in this one.
No, he is not a car.
Okay.
And not a car at all.
So I'm glad we're talking about comic books here. So, okay, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw things about this on the internet in the places on the internet that I go.
Yes.
And I was going to bring it up to you until I saw it in the doc. But so here, I have questions. So number one, is this out right now?
Issue 1 is out.
Okay. How many issues are there going to be?
I don't know. Who knows? Not the internet, not me.
Okay. So have you read this?
Yeah, I've actually read it. I read the first issue actually twice because I enjoyed it so much. And I might read it again.
So it's good.
I think so, yes.
Okay, so it's good. Now, do I have to buy this digitally?
No, you can get it. I don't like owning physical paper things, but yes, you can buy this. Let's see. So back when I did used to buy comics, hold on.
So there's a hardcover version on Amazon that is $27, but will not be in stock. Will not be in stock until November 10th. The Comixology one is $7.
Yes. So it looks
Batman,
like
3 Jokers,
number
1.
Can I find a good link to put in the show notes? Book 2. See, they're already pre-selling book 2. I don't know if book 1 is still out. Here it is, number 1. So I can put this link in the show notes. The website that I used to use when I had a, virtual pull list for getting comics shipped to me all the time is Things from Another World. So it's tfaw.com. And
TFAW.
Yeah, I just dropped a link in the show notes. There you can get you save 20% off the list price. The Things from Another World. Obviously, you probably have to pay for shipping. But one thing I always liked about them is they shipped it well, considering that it's a comic book. I've never had issues with it, coming bent or having an issue the comics being damaged. Obviously, the more comics you buy, the easier it is for them because they can actually put it in a box. But this is a place where you can buy the physical copy for real. I just, after I filled a long box, I can't buy another comic. I don't, they take up so much room and I really don't go back and look at them anymore. So it's digital for me all the way. I know purists are gagging a little bit, but I would recommend this site if you're interested in buying physical comics.
This is a cool site. How many pages is it? You said it was chunky. Right?
It's I believe it's 54 pages.
Oh, so it's not super long.
It's most comics that your normal go to a comic book store and buy it are 26, 28 pages. So they're shorter, right? 'Cause, comics are. You can read a most comic book in 10 minutes if you take your time. But they're labor intensive, right? Because every panel has to be penciled, inked, colored, all that, and the writing and whatnot. So they're very labor intensive, and the price reflects that.
Sure.
But yeah, I've been really impressed with this so far, and like I said, the artwork is great. I thought the writing was really well. Obviously, you can find people on the internet who are like, "Poo poo, Batman! I don't like this author. He ruined." I enjoyed the story. It was good.
Okay, so. You also mentioned one other thing, so 2 more questions.
Okay.
So the first is, you said that you don't have to know Batman trivia to enjoy this,
yes.
But you said that there are some references to the Killing Joke. Now, I have heard you mention the Killing Joke before, and I have seen other references to the Killing Joke. So my question to you is this. Would my time be wasted reading the Killing Joke first? No,
Killing Joke is really, really, really good. I would almost say it's probably it's in the top 5 Batman stories of all time.
But would that be a good place for a Batman comic curious man like myself to start with?
If you're looking for something, if coming from nothing, I think you could do a lot better with The Long Halloween. Okay,
so The Long Halloween. I'm going to look on Jeff Bezos' website. All right, so Batman: The Long Halloween. Okay, so that's $26 for the paperback.
Yes.
Now, so again, this is going to sound really stupid. So it's $26. Does that mean it's the whole story?
Yeah, if you buy the the trade paperback, right, the compendium, it's going to be the entire story, which I think was I don't know how many issues it actually was. I have somewhere somewhere I have a copy of it. I don't know where.
This says it's 384 pages. I have to assume that's the whole deal.
It's long. It's multiple. And I have one of the collected editions somewhere in my basement in a box somewhere. And those are nice because you can see all the different covers that it's shipped with and some of the variants. But I really enjoy the Long Halloween. It's one of my favorites.
Okay, so Long Halloween, and then there's also Batman the Killing Joke Deluxe New Edition.
Yes.
So they have a hardcover of that one, and this one is 96 pages. That's probably not the whole thing, right?
The Killing Joke isn't quite as long.
96 pages doesn't seem...
It is. Hold on. Yeah, let me take a look here. Yeah, 96 pages. I think, if I remember correctly, if it's 96 pages, there's a lot of fluff in there. There's a lot of behind the scenes and a lot of stuff like that. Was
the Killing Joke like only one or two?
It was short. Okay. Let's see if I can find the whole. The whole series was. Just a handful of issues, and it really just covers one particular, storyline that involves Barbara Gordon. Very.
I think I know who that is.
Yeah, that's the daughter of Police Commissioner Jim Gordon. At the time, she's Batgirl. After the incidents of the Killing Joke, she becomes Oracle for reasons that will become apparent during the story. But yeah.
Okay. So Long Halloween, Killing Joke, those would be good for a Batman novice to read then.
I think so, yeah.
All right. So read Long Halloween and then Killing Joke.
Yep.
And then read Three Jokers.
If you want one more storyline,
okay, I'm here for it.
Death in the... I think it's Death... It's not Death of the Family, right? It's Death in the Family.
Death in the Family.
Death in the Family. Yeah, and that Death in the Family. We talked about this before. This is the classic storyline which ends in the death of Robin.
Right. So Batman, Death in the Family. Oh, there's a Blu-ray of that.
Yeah, they made it into a movie. Yeah, some of those DC animations are good. Some of them are bad.
This Batman, Death in the Family. Looks like a paperback. It's 272 pages. I have to imagine that is a thing. Mm-hmm. All right, adding that to the wish list.
But I would start with Long Halloween. I think that's
all right. Long Halloween, Death in the Family, Killing Joke. Then I'll finally be ready for Three Jokers. And by that time, I'm sure the entire series will be out.
Hopefully.
All right. So while we're on the subject of comics, one more thing to close us out here. I stumbled onto a really interesting subreddit the other day.
Okay.
And have you ever heard of the Sandman comics? Graphic novels.
Yes.
Okay.
I have. I have a friend who's really, really into them. I have never really given it a try, but it's always been something that on my list to go back and get into.
I'm told that, much like the label that you described, this whole Vertigo was part of DC Comics, as I understand it.
It was.
Yeah. And I'm told that this is also a very mature subject.
Yes.
Yeah. I kind of started... I stumbled on the subreddit by accident. Don't ask me how I got there. But I started sort of reading some of the posts, and it's a very spoiler-heavy subreddit, so I didn't stay long, but it was enough to pique my interest. So I started reading about what this is. And, to me, this was almost stumbling upon the first time I stumbled upon Watchmen, right? I stumbled upon Watchmen in the back of a comic store way back in the day before before like the internet got a hold of me, right? And I picked it up and I started leafing through it. I'm like, wonder what this is about. And somebody came around the corner and said, you should really read that. And I'm like, okay. So I bought it and I read it for the first time, and like it just blew me away, right? It was just the perfect set of circumstances, and I kind of get that vibe from this. I haven't ordered any of it yet. I just kind of wanted to see if you had heard of it, and it sounds like it's pretty highly regarded as well.
Yeah, no, the question is for me is, where do I start if I want to get back into the Sandman? Do I read the original, which looks like it came out in like 1989? Wow.
Yeah. So apparently there are like, if I remember this correctly, if I go here and I go Sandman, Neil Gaiman or whatever his name is. So there's a few boxed sets, right?
Okay.
I mean, you can pay exorbitant amounts of money. But there are compendiums or omnibuses or whatever you're supposed to call them, right? So, like, apparently there's 2 omnibuses.
Mm-hmm.
Strangely enough, you can get both omnibuses for cheaper than the box set.
And that box set is chunky. Woo!
Yeah, that's a lot. I'm told that, like, there's, like, 10 volumes or something.
Okay.
Like, and that's like, the core of it. Yeah. So I'm, like, really interested in reading it. Because from what and again, I didn't, like, read a lot about it because I don't want to be spoiled and I don't want to know what it's about. But it seems really interesting.
Let's see. What is in this Omnibus Volume 1? That hardcover looks sexy.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. A total of 10. There's a total of 10 trade paperbacks. It's a full run of the series. So there's Preludes and Nocturnes, which is number 1 through 8.
Okay.
The Doll's House, which is 9 through 16. Dream Country, 17 through 20. And then 21 through 28, 32, 37, 29, 31. Oh, wait a second. No. Wait, how does that work? 21 through 28, and then 29 through 31. Oh, they're just listed out of order. Wow, this is really weird. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and it makes no sense. I don't know. Maybe you can make sense of that because you're in the... Yeah, I don't know.
So you can get the Volume 1. So I'm looking at Comixology because I'm probably not going to buy a physical copy. Yeah. I like reading comics on my big boy iPad. Dude, that big boy iPad is so good for comics. The 12 point whatever, so good. And so the volume, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and add this Volume 1 to my wish list on Comixology, so I can maybe pick that up in the future, or right now. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, that was the only other thing, and I'm glad we got to talk comics because I'm starting to, like, really, I think, appreciate comics more.
Yeah, there is really, if you get over the fact that comics are for kids, right? Because I'll tell you what, there are some comics that are definitely not for children. Nope.
There's a lot of comics that are not for kids.
There's some really good storytelling happening, and especially, like, I'm still like 12 at heart, and I still like superhero stories and whatnot. But like, if you go outside of there, there's some really good comics that are not superhero based, that tell really interesting stories and really use the medium well. So, I mean, you can't look for, like, Watchmen. Yes, it's a superhero story, but it's not a superhero story. Like, it uses superheroes to make a point about society. And there's some really grown-up, really mature, thought-provoking comics out there that, comics are good. Read more comics.
Yeah, comics are good. Comics are good. That's that's the main message for tonight. All right. Well,
let's wrap this up.
That was an episode.
Yeah. Again, this is one of those episodes where I looked at the show notes and I was like, how are we going to talk about this for an hour? And here we're 55 minutes in, and yeah.
I don't know how I feel about my life after talking about all this.
You should feel good, Drew. Are you enjoying yourself playing Fight Simulator?
Yes.
Then there you go. It's all that matters.
Okay.
Life's short. Have fun.
Yeah. All right.
Buy that radio thing. I give you permission.
No, I don't think I'm gonna. All right, let's wrap this thing up.
Yeah. As always, you can find us on the internet at doingtheirbest.com or on Twitter at doingbestpod. You can find me on the Twitters at Paul Baylor, Bahler. And where can we find you, Drew?
Yeah, I'm over on the Twitters at Pitferg, PITTFURG, and if you want to see me stream Flight Simulator, I'm over on Twitch at Pitferg as well, PITTFURG on Twitch.
I'm if I can, I'm definitely going to check that out.
I think you'll be pretty impressed. Not with me, but with the game.
Okay.
See you later.
Have a good one.